Good afternoon. Welcome to Bible Study with Hans and Dan. Today is Tuesday, September 8th, and it was kind of dreary last week when we were doing this, but a bright, sunny, beautiful
week so far.
day. And if you woke up early this morning, it actually felt a little cooler, so that was good. We're glad you have joined us today. We're a day later because of Labor Day. Well, I didn't work on Labor Day. I think you had some responsibilities yesterday, but anyway, we're glad you're with us. On the other side of the camera today is Brandon and Brogan and Will. Always grateful for them jumping in. Brogan and Brandon have been in virtual school all day today, and Will's in his ROTC uniform. It was the first day for ROTC to dress out, so we've got them on the other side of the table. Let's talk a little bit about this past weekend. We had the big event, Esther, the live stream from Sight and Sound.
It's been the largest crowd we've had since March.
Right. Had a huge crowd here, about 75, 80 people in the sanctuary.
Yes.
That were socially distanced.
And a humongous screen that Winston found for us with a nice projector.
Winston did a really nice job. That was an amazing screen.
It was like being at Sight and Sound.
Right.
It was so big.
Right. And what was funny is Saturday morning they were coming to pick it back up about mid-morning. Winston and Lila brought their three boys over here, and they put up some cartoons, and they watched some Saturday morning cartoons on this ginormous screen. So
I bet they loved
So that was a lot of fun. And I think one of the things that we keep trying to think through and maybe even struggle with is we know people want to gather.
Yeah.
We know people want to be together, and we want to do that safely in an appropriate way that reflects that we care about our neighbors and our community. And I thought Friday was a good opportunity for us to see how that went.
Well, and it's funny that you say that, because I was talking with somebody earlier today, and they didn't realize when they signed up, they backed out because they heard there were so many people coming. They didn't realize that we were actually going to assign seats and space them out.
Yeah.
They were nervous that many folks were coming. But anytime we're doing anything like that, we are putting you in a safe place because we want to take care of it.
Yeah, and we're following guidelines.
Right,
so we're asking people to wear masks and to sit apart from each other. And we've not had any challenges with that
we
at all.
haven't had any issues.
But one of the things, you were outside doing some tech support for another location, and I was just sitting here looking at an amazingly big screen, and we both started thinking, okay, how do we do more of this? And so we're looking, Christmas, we just finished Labor Day, and we got several holidays, but we know we're all going to feel it at Christmas if we're not able to gather in the ways we normally gather. And so we'd really like your help on the other side of the camera. Clearly, we're going to decorate the sanctuary like we always do. It'll be an amazing decorated space, and we want to engage people in that space in an appropriate way. But we're also starting to look outside the building because we think it's going to be important to provide some outside opportunities. And, as much as we decorate the inside of our building, we rarely do anything outside the building except for a few wreaths. So we're looking at the front of the sanctuary in the courtyard. What are some things we could do on the outside of our building that people might feel comfortable walking through, or we can gather people outside at various times during the Christmas season. And so we'd love to hear some ideas from you. And the other thing is the live stream thing. I think the other thing we're all going to miss at Christmas is those special concerts. And so what we figured out Friday night is we can show a pretty good concert or an event in here. And so if there are special concerts that you know of or Christmas events, Hans is obviously looking at the Sight and Sound schedule, and Winston and I have been looking at some other kinds of schedules. But if there's something you'd love us to show here in the sanctuary that you can gather with some friends, please let us know that. And again, we know it's September 8th and December is a ways away, but as you all know, none of this just happens overnight. It takes a lot of planning and a lot of prep time. So help us out with that.
And we're even if things go back to a new normal, we know it's going to be different than last year. So we're trying to figure out what that could look like.
And you just think about this room. I mean, since March, all this stuff we do with live streaming, and there are some lights and some cameras in here that we're not in here. There's a huge computer table where they're running all these kind of things, and then the Esther event on Friday night. It helps us to see how this room can come alive when we bring in some technology.
Well, and how it can be used in so many different
Yes.
ways.
Yes.
It's not as limited as
Right.
we once thought.
That's right. That's
Yes.
right. And we should remember that when we redid the organ, and we have that little Cat5 cable that communicates to 2,000 pipes.
And
up here.
allows us to roll that organ
Yes.
all over
Yeah,
instead of
it's
having it in
great.
a little box.
So you started Grief Share Sunday night. Just kind of give us a
We did. We
idea
started
how
Grief
that-
Share Sunday night, and we had a good turnout. We have several other folks that were unable to make it that said they're coming. So it was a good-sized group. And in fact, what we're going to do is we're going to split the groups.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to all get together and watch the video part together, and then we're going to split the groups off so that we have plenty of time to talk and plenty of opportunity for everybody to be a part of what's going on.
And you don't have to be at the first one to be a part of Grief Share. Grief Share is just always rolling.
Each one of the little sections is a separate section. So if you came in right in the middle of
Right.
Grief Share, it would be okay. You might want to go back and pick up what
Right.
was in the first part, but each section stands on its own.
So, and that's such an important ministry of what we do for folks within our church family and folks in our community. And, so you continue to think about that and think of folks you can encourage that might
Yes.
want to take advantage of Grief Share. And as we get closer to Christmas, we do several holiday events around Grief Share as well. So,
And we're going to have some advertisements
Yes.
come out to let folks know when
Yep.
those will be. So just be on the lookout for
Right.
those.
and then financial peace. We have a group of young adults right now doing financial peace. We'll actually do our third week tonight. We do that virtually because we have a young adult group that expands to Williamsburg and Roanoke and other places. So that's real fun. But we have two more financial peace groups starting one Sunday night at 6 o'clock this Sunday night. It's an in-person class, meets down the worship center, socially distanced. And then next Thursday, the 17th, a virtual class. And we really want to encourage you, if you go to our website and click on Financial Peace, you can click on the little tab there and sign up. It's all of these resources are free. We've done a deal with Financial Peace to make this available. A lot of folks either stressed about their finances or rethinking their finances or whatever, and Financial Peace is a wonderful tool to do that, so be sure to check that out. All right, we are in session 3 of Ruth, and we're in chapter 3 of Ruth. It's a short little book, and we're going to finish up this week, and we'd love to hear what you'd like us to study next. It's always helpful to us. So let me start by reading Ruth chapter 3, and we're going to begin with verse 1, and the scripture will be right here beside me. One day, Ruth's mother-in-law, Naomi, said to her, "My daughter, I must find a home for you, where you will be well provided for. Now Boaz, with whose women you have worked, is a relative of ours. Tonight he will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor. Wash, put on perfume, and get dressed in your best clothes. And then go down to the threshing floor, but don't let him know you are there until he has finished eating and drinking. And when he lies down, note the place where he is lying. And then go and uncover his feet and lie down. He will tell you what to do." "I will do whatever you say," Ruth answered. So she went down to the threshing floor and did everything her mother-in-law told her to do. And when Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, he went over to lie down at the far end of the grain pile. And Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. In the middle of the night, something startled the man. He turned, and there was a woman lying at his feet. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am your servant Ruth," she said. "Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a guardian redeemer of our family." "The Lord bless you, my daughter," he replied. "This kindness is greater than that which you showed earlier. You have not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all you ask. All the people in my town know that you are a woman of noble character. Although it is true I am a guardian redeemer of our family, there is another who is more closely related than I. Stay here for the night. In the morning, if he wants to do his duty as your guardian redeemer, good. Let him redeem you. But if he is not willing, as surely as the Lord lives, I will do it. Lie here until morning." And so she lay at his feet until morning, but got up before anyone could be recognized. And he said, "No one must know that a woman came to the threshing floor." He also said, "Bring me the shawl you are wearing and hold it out." And when she did so, he poured it into 6 measures of barley and placed the bundle on her. And then he went back to town. When Ruth came to her mother-in-law Naomi, when Ruth came to her mother-in-law, Naomi asked, "How did it go, my daughter?" And then she told her everything Boaz had done for her, and added, "He gave me these 6 measures of barley, saying, 'Don't go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed.'" And then Naomi said, "Wait, my daughter, until you find out what happens, for the man will not rest until the matter is settled today." Okay, a lot's going on in this chapter.
It's a good chapter.
Yeah, and there's a lot of ways we can go at this. Let's just try to stay at some foundational levels. We call this the book of Ruth, but it is a story that Naomi is orchestrating all the way through. It is her initiating the activity of the characters in the book. And this chapter begins with Naomi, and it'll end with Naomi orchestrating the work. God has been providing for Ruth and Naomi, and we remember when Naomi came back to Bethlehem and she said she was empty, and God's been providing for her and for them, and primarily through the generosity and kindness of Boaz. And we talked about last time, Boaz had allowed Ruth to work in his field, had noticed her, had left extra grain for her, had told his men to treat her well. And what he is seeing in Ruth is not somebody he can conquer. He's seeing somebody who has been noble, who has taken care of her mother-in-law, and so he wants to help her do good things.
And she's a foreigner.
Right, and she's a foreigner, which, again, in this whole story, that's the reason we have it.
Right.
It's because God is trying to help Israel see there are foreigners that you are to relate to, and you are to bless, and at the end of the story, wow, we're going to see something different about those foreigners
Something
and how they're part of God's work. But Naomi understands that while she's glad to have Ruth with her, that this isn't a long-term solution. Ruth needs somebody. Because of the way women were viewed in that day, Ruth needs somebody to kind of claim her.
Well, and if anything happens to Naomi, then Ruth is left as a foreigner alone. Then that really becomes difficult for her.
So she knows Ruth needs a place of safety and security and stability. And I just want to pause here for a moment, because I think that's actually the primary design of God for the family. Now, I read this passage of "where you go, I will go, your people be my people, your God, my God, and where you die, I will die." I read that at weddings. But that's not a passage about a married couple. And Ruth is not a love story in the way that we think of love stories. No. That's not what is happening between Ruth and Boaz.
It's not a Hallmark movie.
Right. It's not a Hallmark movie. And what we see is the importance of stability in the family. And I want to stay at our time, and I want to make sure there is a session 4, but we have kind of given away that foundational role of the family, just to be a stable place. And we've kind of gotten into this idea, well, if I'm not loved or if my needs aren't being met, well, okay, but primarily we're to be a stable place to raise children. And I would argue that many of the problems we see in our society is because of lack of stability in the home.
Right. Well, when you think of biblical marriages, they were pre-arranged marriages. It had nothing to do with love.
Right. Most marriages in human history have been arranged out of a function of stability, not this kind of Candyland world of let me go find somebody I love and we're going to blissfully be in love for 70 years. That's not what we're talking about with this story, and we'll get there a little later. Ruth and Boaz show a commitment to God and character to God that results in them having a relationship.
Right.
But we put it the other way around, and I think a lot of the stress we see in our culture right now about schools being open, whether people are going or not, is because for far too many children in our community, school is the place of stability,
safety and stability. Yeah.
And I appreciate those who work at schools to make it so, but that's not their job. No. And I think churches and families need to step up more in that regard. So Naomi realizes that Ruth needs stability. And so what she does, she sends Ruth kind of in the middle of the night to the threshing floor to uncover his feet and lie down. Now, we could spend probably an hour talking about what this means. Let's start with the blunt part first. This is what you would normally associate, these actions would normally be associated with a prostitute.
Right.
This is a sexual exchange here, if you will, in this passage. And the reason I don't go down that road is not because I'm a Puritan or something. It's just because we've heard so much about character, Ruth and Boaz.
Yes.
That's not the story here.
No. And this is a brief action that takes place for something else.
Right. And so, and what we see with Boaz is, if this was something else, he would have sent Ruth off.
Oh, yeah.
He would have sent her away.
Yeah.
He would have not have risked his reputation for her. But if I can get inside his mind for a moment, I think he already knows that Ruth's established her reputation in a foreign land as a person
and he
of character.
says that.
Right.
And Israel is not an easy place for a foreigner to come in and get a good reputation.
That's right. And so I think we really just have two people of great reputation honoring God by honoring each other. And I think that's what the story is here. But not only is Naomi bold, Ruth is bold.
Right.
Because you don't make requests if you're a foreign woman. And Ruth says to Boaz, will you take care of me? Will you do your role as redeemer? And that's a pretty bold ask for Ruth.
Yes.
It's not unlike where Esther went on Friday night with that king.
Well, and Boaz wasn't a nobody. This wasn't just a common guy that she was asking to do that. So this took some courage.
Right. And Boaz responded by blessing her and committing to take care of her, calls her my daughter. And again, it's just a beautiful story, not of a love story.
Right.
But it's a beautiful story of people with a commitment to God and character who are now figuring out that we can bring stability to one another. And again, don't lose sight of the picture here. God is changing the heart of Israel to the foreigners in their midst.
Right. And if you want to call it a love story, it's a love story with God, because that's where the love is that works out into their relationship.
Right.
And Ruth claims Boaz here as the kinsman redeemer there in verse 9. And that word is redeemer in the text. And she's making that claim. And he has to either... Right. It leaves him with action. He has to take action one way or the other. Once Naomi tells Ruth to go and do this, he is left with one of two choices.
Right.
And before Ruth leaves Boaz, he says, I'm going to take care of you.
Right.
Whether it's me, I mean, he's clear with her. He says, there is somebody else that is closer than I am, but I'll make sure that he's going to do his job, or I'll take the job.
And again, it shows character that he recognizes there's somebody else in line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He didn't just go out and try to swindle.
And there is some value in Ruth's and Naomi's land. There's some.
Oh, sure.
There is some commercial value, if you will.
Yes.
And he's not trying to wedge his way in or manipulate his way in. He said, here's the process we got to follow.
Right. And that's it, a process. And he's willing to follow that process. And so in that character, you see each of the three that are players in this book, the character that they have. First of all, Ruth being willing, she's a hard worker. She's willing to do whatever it takes to take care of Naomi. And she is obedient when Naomi tells her, this is what you need to do. This is where I want you to go. This is how I want you to do it. And then Naomi, I mean, her character and how she's taking care of Ruth, that's really what she's doing. Yes, she's taking care of herself, but in long term, she's really taking care of Ruth. And Boaz throughout the whole thing, from the time he sees Ruth, saying to his folks in his field, you know what, make sure she's a foreigner. You make sure she has something in the field and leave her alone.
Right. And we talked about in the first session that we're going to watch Naomi turn from bitter to joy. And it's not a switch.
No. It takes time.
We see somebody functioning here in somebody else's interest.
Yes.
And that, to me, is one of the signs of we start emerging out of our own grief, when we start becoming a little more aware of the needs of those around us. And that's what's happening.
Right.
And
And so we see the relationship, like you said, it starts exactly the opposite
Yes.
of what our world says that relationship should start. And we should start with the character and the godliness and move. We start just the opposite.
Yeah, and so, I think one of the things I've been challenged by in this passage is, it's real easy for anybody to say in front of a preacher, "Oh, sure, I got him till death do us part." But I think we need to spend more time talking about character and godliness, because that's where so often it falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
All right, closing questions this week that are going to come up on the screen now. There's two. One is a tough one, I think, for us even today. God's telling Israel something about caring for the foreigner in their midst. What application for us today is in this story? And we're gonna leave that to you all. Give us some ideas of what you're thinking and what you're seeing. But again, this is kind of the first story really in the Old Testament that is focused on this, as he tries to pull them out of just being God's people with just us. And we need to struggle with that too.
Yeah, we do.
And then the second question, what would be different? We've kind of talked about this a lot today. What would be different if character was the basis of our relationships? Wow, I think family life in America would go up a lot. So give us some of your thoughts in the comments section. Text or email, call us. We'd be glad to talk with you some more. Hans, would you close us in prayer?
Yeah, let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the story of Ruth, and we thank you for the actions of Boaz and Ruth and Naomi in this book. And we ask, Lord, that you would give us the wisdom to see how to apply this story in our lives today, in our culture, oh Lord, because we do need to look outside of our little circles, and we do need to accept others in and take care of those around us, even those, Lord, that aren't like us. I ask, Lord, that you'd give us the wisdom and ability to be able to do those things. Lead us and guide us, oh Lord. This we ask in your name. Amen.
Thanks for joining us today, and we're right back tomorrow at 4 o'clock on Wednesday, so you'll hear session 4 tomorrow, so be sure to join us then.